This video is for educational purposes. Montgomery is the capital city of the U.S. state of Alabama and the county seat of Montgomery County. Named for Continental Army Major General Richard Montgomery, it stands beside the Alabama River, on the coastal plain of the Gulf of Mexico. In the 2020 census, Montgomery's population was 200,603. It is now the third most populous city in the state, after Mobile and Huntsville, and is the 119th most populous in the United States. The Montgomery Metropolitan Statistical Area's population in 2020 was 386,047. It is the fourth largest in the state and 142nd among United States metropolitan areas. Kindly subscribe to this channel and share this video with your friends and families. The city was incorporated in 1819 as a merger of two towns situated along the Alabama River. It became the state capital in 1846, representing the shift of power to the south-central area of Alabama with the growth of cotton as a commodity crop of the Black Belt and the rise of Mobile as a mercantile port on the Gulf Coast. In February 1861, Montgomery was chosen the first capital of the Confederate States of America, which it remained until the Confederate seat of government moved to Richmond, Virginia, in May of that year. In the middle of the 20th century, Montgomery was a major center of events and protests in the civil rights movement, including the Montgomery bus boycott and the Selma to Montgomery marches. In addition to housing many Alabama government agencies, Montgomery has a large military presence due to Maxwell Air Force Base, public universities Alabama State University, Troy University, Montgomery Campus, and Auburn University at Montgomery, two private post-secondary institutions, Faulkner University and Huntington College, high-tech manufacturing, including Hyundai Motor Manufacturing Alabama, and many cultural attractions, such as the Alabama Shakespeare Festival and the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts. Two ships of the United States Navy have been named after the city, including USS Montgomery. Montgomery has also been recognized nationally for its downtown revitalization and new urbanism projects. It was one of the first cities in the nation to implement smart code zoning. Prior to European colonization, the east bank of the Alabama River was inhabited by the Alabama tribe of Native Americans. The Alibamu and the Coushatta, who lived on the west side of the river, were descended from the Mississippian culture. This civilization had numerous chiefdoms throughout the Midwest and South along the Mississippi and its tributaries, and had built massive earthwork mounds as part of their society about 950 to 1250 AD. Its largest location was at Cahokia, in present-day Illinois east of St. Louis. The historic tribes spoke mutually intelligible Muskogee languages, which were closely related. Present-day Montgomery is built on the site of two Alabama towns, Iconachity, Ikanchati or Iconchity or Iconacati, meaning red earth, and Tawassa, built on a bluff called Chunanogachati. The first Europeans to travel through central Alabama were Hernando de Soto and his expedition, who in 1540 recorded going through Iconachity and camping for 1 week in Tawassa. The next recorded European encounter occurred more than a century later, when an English expedition from Carolina went down the Alabama River in 1697. The first permanent European settler in the Montgomery area was James McQueen, a Scotch trader who settled there in 1716. He married a high-status woman in the Coushatta or Alabama tribe. Their mixed-race children were considered Muskogee, as both tribes had a matrilineal system of property and descent. The children were always considered born into their mother's clan and gained their status from her people. In 1785, Abraham Mordecai, a war veteran from a Sephardic Jewish family of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, established a trading post. The Coushatta and Alabama had gradually moved south and west in the tidal plain. After the French were defeated by the British in 1763 in the 7 Years' War and ceded control of their lands, these Native American peoples moved to parts of present-day Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas, then areas of Spanish rule, which they thought more favorable than British-held areas. By the time Mordecai arrived, Creek had migrated into and settled in the area, as they were moving away from Cherokee and Iroquois warfare to the north. Mordecai married a Creek woman. When her people had to cede most of their lands after the 1813-14 Creek War, she joined them in removal to Indian Territory. Mordecai brought the first cotton gin to Alabama. The Upper Creek were able to discourage most white immigration until after the conclusion of the Creek War. Following their defeat by General Andrew Jackson in August 1814, the Creek tribes were forced to cede 23 million acres to the United States, including remaining land in today's Georgia and most of today's central and southern Alabama. In 1816, the Mississippi Territory, 1798 to 1817, organized Montgomery County. Its former Creek lands were sold off the next year at the Federal Land Office in Milledgeville, Georgia. The first group of white settlers to come to the Montgomery area was headed by General John Scott. This group founded Alabamatown about 2 miles, 3 kilometers, downstream on the Alabama River from present-day downtown Montgomery. In June 1818, county courts were moved from Fort Jackson to Alabamatown. Alabama was admitted to the Union in December 1819. Soon after, Andrew Dexter Jr. founded New Philadelphia, the present-day eastern part of downtown. He envisioned a prominent future for his town. He set aside a hilltop known as Goat Hill as the future site of the state capitol building. New Philadelphia soon prospered, and Scott and his associates built a new town adjacent, calling it East Alabamatown. Originally rivals, the towns merged on December 3, 1819, and were incorporated as the town of Montgomery. Slave traders used the Alabama River to deliver slaves to planters as laborers to work the cotton. Buoyed by the revenues of the cotton trade at a time of high market demand, the newly united Montgomery grew quickly. In 1822, the city was designated as the county seat. A new courthouse was built at the present location of Court Square, at the foot of Market Street, now Dexter Avenue. Court Square had one of the largest slave markets in the South. The state capital was moved from Tuscaloosa to Montgomery on January 28, 1846. As state capital, Montgomery began to influence state politics, and it would also play a prominent role on the national stage. Beginning February 4, 1861, representatives from Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, and South Carolina met in Montgomery, host of the Southern Convention, to form the Confederate States of America. Montgomery was named the first capital of the nation, and Jefferson Davis was inaugurated as president on the steps of the state capitol. The capital was later moved to Richmond, Virginia. On April 12, 1865, following the Battle of Selma, Major General James H. Wilson captured Montgomery for the Union. In 1886, Montgomery became the first city in the United States to install citywide electric streetcars along a system that was nicknamed the Lightning Route. Residents followed the streetcar lines to settle in new housing in what were then suburban locations. As the Reconstruction era ended, Mayor W.L. Moses asked the state legislature to gerrymander city boundaries. It complied and removed the districts where African Americans lived, restoring white supremacy to the city's demographics and electorate. This prevented African Americans from being elected in the municipality and denied them city services. On February 12, 1945, a devastating and deadly tornado struck the western portion of the city. The tornado killed 26 people, injured 293 others, and caused a citywide blackout which lasted for hours. The United States Weather Bureau would describe this tornado as the most officially observed one in history. In the post-World War II era, returning African American veterans were among those who became active in pushing to regain their civil rights in the South, to be allowed to vote and participate in politics, to freely use public places, to end segregation. According to the historian David Baito of the University of Alabama, African Americans in Montgomery nurtured the modern civil rights movement. African Americans comprised most of the customers on the city buses, but were forced to give up seats and even stand in order to make room for whites. On December 1, 1955, Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her bus seat to a white man, sparking the Montgomery bus boycott. Martin Luther King Jr., then the pastor of Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, and E.D. Nixon, a local civil rights advocate, founded the Montgomery Improvement Association to organize the boycott. In June 1956, the U.S. District Court Judge Frank M. Johnson ruled that Montgomery's bus racial segregation was unconstitutional. After the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the ruling in November, the city desegregated the bus system, and the boycott was ended. Kindly subscribe to this channel and share this video with your friends and families. See you in the next one.